Last summer, one of my lambs was more friendly than usual. He kept resting his head on my leg, and I thought it was cute. But 3 days later, he was dead because of barber pole parasites. Barber pole parasites kill sheep and goats by sucking their blood internally, and they bleed to death. It can happen quite quickly, and you may not notice anything wrong until you find a dead animal. Some animals might show a slack jaw called bottle jaw, like you see in this lamb. That's the bad news. The good news is that there are things you can do to prevent it and also to detect it before it's too late. These are the top 6 tips I learned the hard way. Number 1, pasture rotation. By far, this is the best prevention. Infected larvae live in the bottom 3 to 4 inches of their forage. If you rotate to a new pasture before the forage is eaten below 4 inches, this will help prevent ingestion of the larvae. Ideally, you want to move to new pasture every 4 days, and you don't want to return to pasture for at least 8 weeks. I divided my pasture into 2 and 3 parts using a single line of electric wire about a foot high. I wouldn't use that simple of a fencing for perimeter fencing because predators can easily go over or under it, but it is surprisingly effective at keeping them in a subdivided pasture. By dividing my pastures, I was able to get a total of 8 pastures so I can rotate off each one more quickly and keep the original one longer. Or keep them off that original one longer anyways. I also use temporary fencing to allow foraging of leaves and tree undergrowth, which some studies say the tannins in the leaves are a natural dewormer. Either way, it provided another pasture. Number 2, cross-species grazing. Barber pole cannot survive in horses, cows, pigs, or chickens. By either grazing those animals with your sheep or in advance of moving the sheep onto a pasture, the other species ingest the barber pole and they become dead hosts. I think of them as little vacuums moving about my pastures, cleaning them up for my sheep. Number 3, regular FAMACHA scoring. FAMACHA scoring checks the membrane surrounding the eyes for anemia. There is a scorecard numbered 1 through 5, with 5 being very pale and 1 being dark pink or red. Animals that score of a 4 or 5 should be dewormed immediately, and potentially some boosters provided, such as vitamin B12 injections or Nutri-Drench cocktail. Deworming only those animals that need it will help prevent the parasite's resistance to the dewormers. It is important to deworm effectively and completely and not undertreat them to prevent resistance as well. Number 4, nutrient support. When I had some animals that either had a FAMACHA score or behavior that indicated they had parasites, I supported them with nutrition as well. And in some cases, I was even able to save one lamb that looked nearly dead with that support. I drenched them with a cocktail of 2 pumps of Nutri-Drench, a tablespoon of molasses, and a dose of vitamin B12 into a large syringe that I then added water to. I also sometimes, depending on the animal, gave them an injection of vitamin B. Number 5, fecal counts. I have not implemented this approach yet, but it's next on my list. I plan on spot checking fecals in about 10 to 20% of my flock when I do FAMACHA scoring. You do need a fairly inexpensive microscope to do fecals, so this is next on my list to learn how to do. Most likely, most of your parasite load is being generated by a small portion of your flock, so knowing who is generating those parasites will help you decide who to call. And number 6, aggressive calling. This is the hard one for people like myself who have to remind myself every day that I am a farmer and not a pet owner. If you want a healthy flock, it begins with healthy breeding stock. Calling those animals that either don't resist parasites or are shedding parasites will keep the rest of the flock healthier. It was a hard lesson, but like most things in farming, the lessons that stick with us are the ones that we learn the hard way. I hope some of what I learned can help you not make the same mistakes I did. Happy shepherding.